Well folks, Phanteks has done it again, and this time for 69 bucks you get this right here. It's a mid-sized tower packed with RGB integration. It's pretty much a staple at this point for Phanteks cases, going back as far as what I can remember, the P400, the original P400. Apart from just the average kind of like build, right, being that it's a mid-tower, there are plenty of mid-towers that compete with this case, I think that the biggest selling point is going to be obviously the price. At 69 USD, it's a heck of a bargain. It's being sold right now on Newegg for US buyers, but I'm not sure about Amazon yet, but they'll be linked in the description if you're interested. But for now, I want to tell you what I think about it, because I helped Lisa build, in this case, this exact build. This is our i5-8400 GTX 1080 Ti build. You can check out the video somewhere on the side of the screen, but I'm going to tell you why I think it's a heck of a bargain, talk about some of the pros and cons associated with the price, what you're kind of foregoing, right, when you choose to buy something that's sub $100 in this category, and then tell you what I like the most about it. So this is the Phanteks P350X. Here we go. Are you in need of a sexy new set of cables for your next computer build? Look no further than the Cable Mod Configurator, where you can design custom sleeved cables spec to your PSU of choice with exact lengths, color combinations, and combs in the new Pro Series lineup, which is a huge step up over the previous stuff. Check the link in the video description and start building today. Starting first with overall build quality, the chassis is comprised of steel, and you will find a tempered glass panel that spans just far enough down to top off the basement here. So the basement section of this case on the left side has its own dedicated panel that kind of protrudes from the rest of the chassis, and that sinks flush with the tempered glass that rests above it. So similar to how Phanteks handled this with their P300 and their P350X, kind of takes it to the next level. I think that's a bit longer than a P300. It's just slightly shorter in terms of height than their P400 series. So this chassis boasts 7 PCIe slots at the rear. That's good for give or take 2 graphics cards with maybe an extra peripheral in there like a capture card or what have you. You do have one 120mm fan mount at the rear. That is actually where I moved the stock fans. You only get one stock fan with this case, and it's not very great. It's kind of a generic run-of-the-mill fan, though it does not have like a Molex connector, so it's not that old. It's not too loud. I mean, as long as you turn the thing down, it's just a 3-pin fan. If you control it in your BIOS, then you're going to be perfectly fine with just using this as like an exhaust fan, which is typically what I do with these cheap fans that manufacturers include in their cases. Again, only one 120mm fan included with this chassis, and that was obviously a cost-saving measure for Phanteks. There are up to 2 140mm fan mounts up top, and that's pretty much where I'm going to call it. I'm not going to say that you could fit a rat up here because, well, there's not much space vertically above the graphics card. There's maybe about 1.5 inches, and that's good for just fans. You could put just a radiator up here, but it would be a passive radiator, so you wouldn't have any fans linked to that. And I say that because you're going to have your VRM MOSFET heatsinks from your motherboard impeding your ability to mount an AIO combo up there, and also RAM clearance would be a severe issue. So you can see here we only have maybe 3/4 of an inch or so worth of clearance between the tips of our RAM, which these are pretty ostentatious modules. These are from Team Group, the Nighthawk white RGB modules. Between those modules and the fan, again, about 3/4 of an inch. So yeah, that's not wide enough for an AIO combo, fan rad combo of any sort. So I would say maybe just exhaust fans up top, and that's it. You do get a dust filter up top, by the way, so if you want to run these as intakes for whatever reason, you can do that and not worry too much about dust flooding your case. And toward the front, you'll find support for up to a 280mm AIO combo, and I'm saying just 280 because there is no cutout in the basement, which means that this chassis does not support 360mm fan rad combos of any sort. You can't fit a 360mm rad anywhere in this chassis, so limited just to 280 up front. I wouldn't even call it a 240 up top because there's just really no vertical space for that. And then you could probably squeeze out a 120mm AIO at the rear, although we'd be really cutting it close. I would recommend putting everything that you can AIO wise up front. And you can see we have plenty of space still between our GTX 1080 Ti gaming from Gigabyte and the AIO, at least the fan rad combo section. So if you want to run an extended graphics card, something that's really long, even like a dual GPU card, you could could certainly do that in this case. You do have that length clearance. You could certainly mod this case just a little bit with a bracket like this, or you could use the cable mod bracket, which doesn't require any cutting at the rear, which is actually what I would recommend at this point. And you could get a similar look to what we've done here. But I invite you again to check out the video I pointed to earlier if you want to copy this build exactly how we did it. You can see how we got it all fit in here. But there is a cutout also for graphics card VGA power cables to run from the basement, from underneath the basement. It's a small cutout. You could probably fit an 8-pin through here. I mean, if you want to do 2 8-pins, you're going to kind of squeeze the cables at the base. So I wish Phanteks had widened this hole just a little bit. Otherwise, I am glad to see one there. Cable management elsewhere in the chassis, though, is actually really good. And part of the reason why that's the case is because there is an indentation here, again, next to the motherboard, or where the motherboard would be, and it just gives you extra volume, places to stuff those cables that you otherwise would have to run right underneath your basement, kind of in your hard drive bays. That tends to be where I stow extra cables. I do have extensions running, so there's already extra cable lengths right back there, but I still was able to route things with ease because of the extra volume, similar to how Fractal Design approached this with their Define C and Meshify C. But for 69 bucks, the P350X is one heck of a bargain. It's gotta be my favorite case in this price category because it really has all the features I would want in a mid-tower, aside from maybe just the luxuries of rubber grommets and things you could really get by without in a $69 case. I mean, come on, that's dirt cheap for what you're really getting here. So you do have to mount the power supply from the right side of the case. That's a bit of a disappointment. It was a very tight squeeze. Remember, this case is not very tall, so the space for the power supply is literally just there for the power supply, and that's it. There's no extra breathing room, although of course if you turn your power supply upside down, the fan facing down, then you can use the dust filter included in the chassis to filter out dust and still give your power supply plenty of breathing room. Another very cool aspect of this case that I mentioned earlier is the integrated RGB support. So you do have 2 dedicated buttons on top, of course paired with 2 USB 3.0 ports, no USB Type-C or 2.0. You do have your standard headphone and microphone jacks, but these 2 buttons further down control both the colors of the RGBs you're seeing here and the mode by which the LEDs kind of interact with each other. So you can see here, while I click this one, I'm controlling the color. We've got purple, pink, green, blue, pretty much every color under the sun. This is the one that I've left it standard at so you could see the array of colors at your disposal. And then the second button here changes the mode, so the way that the LEDs interact with each other. Yeah, and then you can change the colors of them. So yeah, these 2 buttons actually do quite a bit. These are addressable LEDs, so top of the line stuff here for what you get in a PC case, and you can really make it look your own. And that's why I don't shun RGB LEDs anymore. I mean, as long as it's done right and it's not overkill. You know, we have rainbow puke going on most of the time with this build. That's just because I want to show you what you could do color-wise. But being able to customize the look of the case just by LEDs alone is actually a really cost-effective way to customize a case without spending hundreds of dollars on cables and custom shrouds and whatever else you can think of to spend money on. One other concern I have with this case, it's pretty standard by this point in 2018, was airflow. There are ventilated grill slits here running down the left and right side of the front panel, and there is also included mesh. Now the mesh is very fine, and I found that with the panel completely removed, temperatures across the board dropped by about 3 to 4 degrees. On the CPU side, the graphics card dropped by about 2 or 3 degrees. It really didn't change much on the graphics card side, and I think that's because we have the AIO kind of flowing right, that warmer air from the radiator through to the graphics card. That's just a consequence of running an AIO in this config. But altogether, I wouldn't say this is too restrictive of a case in my experience, at least. You know, just comparing the panel off versus on, there seems to be a decent amount of space for air to enter the case on both the left and right side, and for it to turn slightly inefficiently, I should say, at 90 degrees to enter the volume of the chassis that you want to be cool. Elsewhere, the case seems pretty healthy. It stands firmly off the ground by just under an inch. Again, we do have a mesh filter up top. It's magnetic, and it's pretty straightforward. That's how I like to see it. Just a simple solution up top is really all you need, especially for a case of this caliber. And I'm really a fan not only of the LED strip running along the side here that you can see on camera right now, but also of the 2 LED strips running down the front panel. These are not wired, by the way, so you can completely remove this panel, and you can see we have these static little connection points here that when the front panel is mounted will allow these RGBs to shine, and they will of course sync up with the rest of the case depending on kind of how you calibrate things with those 2 buttons on top. A few other talking points: the tempered glass is very transparent. It's not tinted much at all. That's how I like to see things, especially with a white interior. It makes no sense to have a white chassis with a really dark tinted panel. To me, that just looks ugly. Despite having a dark external paint job, the internal part of this particular model is white, so you kind of get the best of both worlds, right? You don't have to worry about a white case not really matching anything else in your room, but you get the aesthetics of a white build on the inside with the white basement top and the white motherboard tray. Oh, and one other cool thing about this case, you actually mount hard drives from the front, and I'm not sure if other manufacturers have done this mainstream at this point, but I hope Phanteks keeps doing this because it's a much easier way to install hard drives. Look, it's much easier, in my opinion, to remove a front panel, right, than to remove a right side panel, because then you got to worry about stuffing like cables back against the motherboard tray and making sure it's as tidy as possible back there, just to remove or to add a hard drive. But if you want to tweak with your hard drives, in this case, then all you got to do is remove the front panel, and you can just, you know, use those hot swap bays straight up without interfering with the rest of your cable management on the right side. So I think it's a very clever addition. I hope it stays in future revisions of Phanteks cases. So yeah, I mean, it's really hard for me to knock on this case much at all. I'm trying to be critical, but it's difficult to do that knowing that this case is only 69 bucks. I'm telling you, if I was on a budget, if I still cared about aesthetics, but I didn't want to spend, you know, $100 or so US dollars on a chassis, which is pretty much mainstream right now for most mid-tower cases, then this is a case I would get. I wouldn't go with a P300 anymore, just because I think for 10 bucks, you're getting a lot more in the P350X, and that's what Phanteks sought to do, was just improve things across the board, the building experience, the looks, the aesthetics, and only charge the consumer $10 more than the P300, this case's smaller brother. I really like what they've done here. This would be my case for sure on a budget, and I think I'm gonna start recommending this one from now on when people ask for a cheap case that does have RGB integration to let you kind of customize things the way you want, that includes tempered glass, that is a mid-tower. 69 bucks, again, 69 bucks. Like, it's a really good deal. I don't know what else to say about it. I'm really impressed with the cost effectiveness of the P350X. So I'm gonna stop freaking out about the price now and ask you guys what you think. You're getting bang for the buck wise with the P350X. If you have another Phanteks case, let me know what you think about it and how it's been treating you over the past however long you've had it. Pepsi's trying to get into the room. I guess that's time for me to go. So again, leave your comments down below. I'll check them out. I know we're probably not going to agree on everything, but that's the point, right? That's why this is a review. That's why opinions are kind of infused into this. I'm not trying to tell people how to build cases. I'm just trying to tell you what I look for in cases, and I love what Phanteks did here. This, again, is a review. We aren't being paid by Phanteks to say anything about this case. I just like what they've done, and I really think you should consider it in your next build, regardless if it's a $2,000 build or a $500 build. 69 bucks is a heck of a bargain for what you're getting. Again, links in the video description. Check those out. All the other Phanteks cases that I've reviewed and tested in the past are down there as well. Comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more content like this. This is Science Studio. Thanks for learning with us.